Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, please.
Thank you. I apologize upfront because I must make a not pleasant confession. As an Albanian, it is impossible for me to avoid drawing parallels between Ukraine and President Zelensky and Kosovo and President Thaçi. Today at this Council of Europe summit, I cannot help but remember that the injustice towards the Kosovo Liberation War and its leader Hashim Thaçi started precisely at the Council of Europe, under the malign influence of the then member of this council, Russian Federation. Kosovo's president, or as someone named Joe Biden referred to him, the George Washington of Kosovo, is now being tried by a special tribunal established and funded by the democratic world, but based on a 2011 Council of Europe report, which was diabolically sponsored by representatives of Vladimir Putin's party in the Council of Europe Assembly. Completely unfounded allegations of human trafficking were raised then as the start of a criminal smear campaign against Kosovo and Albania. And when I heard Kremlin propaganda talking about human organ trafficking by neo-Nazis in Donbass, it seemed like I saw President Zelensky 10 years later tried by a special tribunal founded on the same absurd charges. Sorry for this brutally inconvenient introduction, which may seem to you like breaking in pieces the piano where was wonderfully played the song Ave Maria by our hosts. But it is extremely disheartening to know that the troubling situation involving the President of Kosovo and the Kosovo Liberation Army originated within the Council of Europe. I would be guilty of remaining silent if I did not speak up here today and say the following. The Council of Europe Assembly has a moral obligation to correct any mistakes, and in this case should open the way to retract the report that falsely labeled Albania as a base for the alleged organ trafficking facilitated by the Kosovo Liberation Army. Refusing to face the truth today would be worse than making a grave mistake 12 years ago when many voted with closed eyes that disgraceful report in good faith. Of course, today the situation has changed. Russia is no longer a member of this council, although the number of Russians who continue to work for the Council of Europe is very impressive. And thanks God, the unity of the Council's democratic community in support of the Ukrainian Liberation War and President Zelensky is extraordinary. Albania has never had illusions about the nature of the regime in Moscow, and our relations with Moscow have been non-existent since the death of Josip Vissarionovich Stalin. Don't ask me to explain how and why, because it would take longer than our trip to Iceland. Since the beginning of the war, the popularity of Vladimir Putin in Albania has varied from 0.7% to 1.2%. Albania is very small to influence the fate of such a decisive war for the future of Europe and the world. But every little thing we have done for Ukraine has been done with great gratitude towards the Ukrainian resistance. This is also why the most beautiful of things we Albanians will take away from this summit, so well organized by our Icelandic hosts. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Iceland, for what you so bravely and firmly did by shaking the status quo and getting finally Kosovo in this big community. So is the conviction of everyone here expressed so eloquently by some colleagues. It is not President Zelensky who should thank us, but we who should thank Ukraine for what it is doing for all of us and for our dear Europe. I thank you all, and I'll happily sign the agreement on the register of damages before leaving this gracious country. God bless Europe and Slava Ukraina.